Why the Weimar Republic was built to collapse? This system did not collapse because democracy is weak. It collapsed because it was built on structural instability. Before we talk about elections, hyperinflation, or the rise of extremism, we need to understand what the Weimar Republic actually was. It was not simply a failed state. It was an attempt to engineer modern democracy under conditions that made stability almost impossible. The Weimar Republic was born in 1918 out of military defeat, economic exhaustion, and political humiliation. It did not emerge from victory. It emerged from collapse. Systems born in crisis often inherit structural vulnerabilities from the very conditions that created them. Germany at the end of World War I was economically devastated. The monarchy had fallen, the army had lost. The old imperial structure had disintegrated. Into that vacuum stepped a democratic experiment. The new republic was tasked with building legitimacy in a society that associated democracy with defeat. This was the first structural fracture. The Weimar Constitution, adopted in 1919, was ambitious. It introduced universal suffrage, proportional representation, civil liberties, and a strong presidency. On paper, it was one of the most modern democratic constitutions of its time. But structurally, it embedded instability. Proportional representation allowed small parties to enter parliament easily. This produced fragmentation. Fragmentation required coalitions. Coalitions required compromise. Compromise required political trust. And trust was scarce. The presidency was designed as a stabilizing force. Article 48 allowed the president to rule by decree in emergencies. This was meant to protect democracy. Instead, it created a constitutional escape hatch from democracy. The system contained within it the legal mechanism for its own suspension. Between 1919 and 1933, Weimar saw frequent elections, unstable coalitions, and short-lived governments. Cabinets fell regularly. Policies shifted constantly. No party commanded enduring majority support. This was not chaos. It was structural fragmentation. At the same time, the Republic operated under the weight of the Treaty of Versailles. Reparations strained the economy. Territorial losses weakened national pride. Many Germans did not see the Republic as legitimate. They saw it as imposed. Legitimacy is the core currency of any system. Without it, formal structures mean little. In 1923, hyperinflation destroyed savings and trust in economic stability. Prices doubled within days. Currency became worthless. Middle-class wealth evaporated. The state appeared incapable of protecting order. Economic collapse did not automatically destroy the Republic, but it eroded confidence. Confidence, once broken, is difficult to restore. The mid-1920s saw recovery. The Dawes Plan restructured reparations. Foreign loans flowed in. Cultural life flourished. Berlin became a symbol of modernity. The Republic appeared to stabilize. But this stability depended heavily on American capital. The system was not internally resilient. It was temporarily supported. When the Great Depression struck in 1929 and American loans dried up, the underlying fragility resurfaced immediately. Unemployment surged. Banks collapsed. Businesses failed. Political extremism gained traction. Parliament struggled to respond. Coalitions fractured. Emergency decrees under Article 48 became more frequent. The constitutional safeguard became a governing tool. Democracy was slowly hollowed out through legal mechanisms embedded in its own framework. By the early 1930s, presidents ruled increasingly by decree. Parliament became secondary. Political polarization intensified. Extremist parties gained seats. The Republic had been designed to prevent authoritarianism, yet its emergency provisions enabled it. Weimar attempted to balance two incompatible priorities: maximum representation and maximum stability. Representation increases diversity of voices. Stability requires coherence. Under economic and cultural pressure, these priorities collided. The final phase of the Republic was administrative. Governments were appointed without parliamentary majorities. Decrees replaced deliberation. The democratic shell remained intact while its core weakened. When Adolf Hitler was appointed chancellor in 1933, it was done through constitutional process. The Republic did not fall because it lacked elections. It fell because its institutional design allowed executive power to expand under crisis. Once emergency rule became normalized, the transition to dictatorship required minimal structural change. The Republic also faced opposition from elites who never fully accepted it. Sections of the military, judiciary, and bureaucracy remained loyal to the old order. Weimar was a democracy administered by institutions that did not uniformly believe in democracy. Media polarization amplified instability. Street violence normalized confrontation. Political discourse became existential. The Great Depression acted as a stress test. Under stress, the Republic revealed its design flaws. Emergency measures became standard governance. Citizens became accustomed to rule without parliament. The Enabling Act of 1933 formally transferred legislative power to the executive. Democratically elected representatives voted to dissolve their own authority. The system ended itself using its own procedures. Weimar was not doomed from the beginning, but it was vulnerable from the beginning. Its constitution overemphasized proportional representation without safeguards against fragmentation. It embedded emergency powers without strict limits. It relied on economic stabilization rather than cultural legitimacy. Under favorable conditions, these weaknesses were manageable. Under severe economic shock, they became fatal. Systems optimized for fairness may struggle under stress if they lack cohesion. Systems optimized for stability may suppress representation. Weimar leaned toward inclusivity without sufficient stabilizers. Many Germans never internalized the Republic as their system. When citizens do not emotionally invest in institutions, institutional defense weakens. Weimar's fall was gradual normalization of exception. Emergency rule became common. Parliamentary deadlock became expected. Political violence became tolerated. When breakdown finally occurred, it felt procedural. The Weimar Republic lasted only 14 years, yet its structural lessons continue to resonate. Modern democracies face polarization, economic disruption, and legitimacy crises. Emergency powers exist in many constitutions. Proportional systems operate in fragmented landscapes. Weimar's story is not a warning against democracy. It is a warning about institutional design and political culture. It rose from imperial collapse with ambition. It stabilized briefly through external support. It fractured under economic shock. It dissolved through constitutional procedure. It was fragile by design.